Hello and welcome to Eaton's Current Thinking broadcast, where we work together, have conversation with industry experts on, what are some of the topics that are top of the mind for the electrical industry. My name is Advait Katarki. I'm with Eaton. I'm a global director managing our EV charging infrastructure business. And today we are here at ACT Expo in Las Vegas. And one of the topics that's, a lot of people are thinking about is, how do we really help our industry scale commercial EV adoption, right? So we're at that inflection point. What are some of the things that we can go do to really kind of simplify the transition and make it a little bit more scalable? I'm excited to have a great panel of experts with me here, and we'll go on the panel and do some introductions. Amy, you want to start?
Absolutely. I'm Amy Blair. I'm the Director of Fleet and Federal Business for North America for ChargePoint. I've been in electrification for nearly 2 decades. I'm excited today to talk about fleet and making sure that we're helping everybody with end-to-end solutions.
I'm Rob Graff with the North American Council for Freight Efficiency, better known as NACFE. I'm a senior technical advisor there, and I've been there for about 5 years now.
I'm Eric Winterset. I'm the bureau manager for the city of Long Beach. I'm the end user looking for solutions to scale up electrification.
I'm Phil Weicker, co-founder and chief technology officer of Harbinger Motors, manufacturer of medium-duty electric and hybrid vehicles.
And I'm Mark VanWingerden. I'm a product strategy manager for Eaton, and we work on onboard vehicle circuit protection and electrification technologies.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So, Amy, starting off with you, when we look at like the state of the commercial EV industry today, there's certainly some fragmentation. Can you paint us a picture on where is the industry today?
Yeah, absolutely. The electrification adoption is real. We are definitely seeing fleets go faster right now. It's just a bit uneven as far as what we're seeing isn't a lack of demand. It's just a lack of coordination. To your point, just having everybody on the same page and making sure that everybody is coordinated to make it easy for fleets. Fleets are moving really past pilots, just like Eric in Long Beach, and really on larger multi-site deployments. So working with ChargePoint and Eaton together to make sure that we're creating simplification to work streams that address this at scale is what we're doing to lower the total cost of ownership for fleets. And that's really been what's I'm most excited about. There's still a chicken and egg scenario. Fleets don't want to overbuild their depots. Fleets also are working with utilities that are still trying to plan demand. So really making sure that we have as many solutions to offer fleets for over-the-road charging. So again, with ChargePoint and Eaton is everything really behind the meter, your switchboards, your gear, your conduit, and making sure that that's simplified battery energy storage. And then ChargePoint EV charging, all things infrastructure, and also powered by one of the largest networks in the world with 1.4 million charge points for public charging. Just trying to make it simplified and easy for fleets is what we're doing together.
That's awesome. Rob, what are you seeing? How is NACFE working with different fleets as they kind of go through this journey?
Well, let me first explain what NACFE is, because we're sort of a unique organization. We're a nonprofit, and I'm going to actually read our mission statement because it's carefully crafted. We're an unbiased and fuel-agnostic nonprofit organization that researches the benefits and challenges of existing fuel efficiency technologies and practices to help fleets make informed decisions on which options improve freight efficiency and are cost effective. Because as you know, if something's not cost effective, it doesn't matter how good it is, right? So we are in close touch with the industry. We work with very close relations with everything from Class 8 refrigerated sleepers that are going overnight and with 2 drivers from Salinas to Chicago filled with strawberries, to the small electric Frito-Lay truck that's visiting bodegas in Queens. And so we focus almost exclusively on freight vehicles. And every 2 years we do demonstration. We get a lot of our information from our demonstration project, I guess is what we call it, data collection project, where we call Run on Less, which every 2 years we recruit about a dozen fleets, and they instrument at least 1 or 2 vehicles each. For an 18-day period, we collect data while they're actually doing real freight deliveries with real cargo. And the last 3 of these in 2021, 2023, and 2025 had electric trucks in them, ranging from small trucks to large trucks. And we interview the drivers, we interview the utilities that serve them, we interview the operations folks, and we find out what they're learning. We gather data on the speed of the vehicle every 10 seconds, the speed of the vehicle, the efficiency of the vehicle, the state of charge, and so forth, the elevation, basic location, and then we analyze that data, and other people, we give that data away free for people to analyze. So what we're seeing in the industry now is, with the end of many of the subsidies, at least the federal subsidies, although there's still a lot of state and local subsidies, the industry is now facing a situation where, the subsidies aren't available, which is going to pull a lot. I think it's going to bring a lot of efficiency into the industry that wasn't there. And with the advent of the Tesla Semi and the Windrows and, maybe some Chinese trucks coming in, there's a new trucks, particularly in the heavy duty, the Class 8 vehicles that are designed from the bottom up as electric trucks rather than simply adding electric propulsion system to a formerly diesel truck. So I think that's a good way to start.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's amazing data, right? If you're a fleet, yeah, go ahead.
I want to add, all of the data is free to anyone who wants to use it. We've written, I think I looked just before this, we've written 12 reports on electrification of trucks over the last few years. So all available to download at no cost from our website, which is NACFE, NACFE.org.
That's awesome. I mean, if I'm a fleet looking to electrify, I think that data, that's amazing. It allows me to kind of make some good decisions. So on that note, Eric, what's your perspective from someone who's actually deploying EVs? When you think of city of Long Beach, what goes through your minds as you look at electrifying some of your fleets? So, what are some of the considerations and what are you seeing out there?
Well, the first thing is operational duty and operational necessity for the operators. If they can't continue to do their job with switching over from diesel gas to an electric or hydrogen, I know there's talk of that. They really don't care. They're there to do a job. The refuse guys are there to pick up trash. The sweepers are there to sweep the streets. So we got to get their buy-in, and it has to meet the duty cycles of the day. Also, infrastructure has to be in place. Specifically on the medium and heavy duty side, we've deployed about 200 light duty EVs in our fleet currently. We've scaled up, 150 fleet chargers, ChargePoint chargers that we have in and around our fleet depots. But we've kind of hit a roadblock on scaling up with, like we talked about, with utilities. There's a funding issue now. There's not a lot of grant funding that we were able to take advantage of. Like, we were using the IRA credits up until last year when that got taken away. So we're in this weird space where we want to buy more EVs, but we're not built out. So we're obviously going to look for temporary solutions until we can figure out how to continue to scale up. But we're kind of in that in-between space right now. But we're committed to continue our path forward. We have city resolutions. They're going to, that have our back for funding, because a lot of these EV vehicles are more expensive than traditional ICE vehicles. So the way I look at it right now, it's all options on the table, whether it be temporary, long-term temporary, any type of charging solution, solar. We're looking at everything, and this coming to this show, I think we're going to get a lot of answers on what we can do for the next couple of years.
That's awesome. Hey, Phil, kind of turning from to the commercial vehicles, with the onboard technology, right? So, what are you seeing from a customer demand standpoint? What are some of the innovations that you guys are bringing to your platforms to kind of help with the transition?
Yeah, so we've seen sort of in the medium duty space where we focus, we see probably two major innovation areas that we focused on this year. For what we would call middle mile routes that are sort of 200 to 400 miles. We now offer a range extender, so we can still provide a significant amount of EV range and much better fuel economy for fleets who need sort of 200, 300, 400 miles from a medium duty truck. And then a tremendous interest in export power. So for a lot of vocational applications, the vehicle is a lot more about doing the work than it is about transporting. So they may only drive, I think we were just talking 10, 15 miles a day, but then they're going to go somewhere and do something for several hours. And the vehicle is really kind of their office, their home base, their storage, and being able to provide electrical power that they need to do that, to do those tasks is really important. So we're offering a 15 kilowatt export power. We use the vehicle's battery system to do that, and we think that's going to gather a tremendous amount of interest from vocational customers. So those are our two major new offerings this year. And we think that as we continue to work throughout the medium duty vehicle space, those things are going to help us, help us serve a wider variety of customers.
Cool. Hey, Mark, like Eaton's in a pretty unique position where, we have a role to play with onboard technologies as well as offboard technologies, right? You with your perspective from an onboard technologies, what are some of the ideas? What are some of the things that we're doing to kind of help accelerate some of this adoption of commercial EVs?
Yeah. So, what we see in the industry is demand for longer range, faster charging. How do we close the perceived performance gap with internal combustion engine vehicles? And so what that presents is a lot of technical challenges on board the vehicle in terms of higher potential fault currents, higher loads. So how do we balance meeting the safety goals that the vehicle has to achieve to make sure that the vehicles are safe to operate, and balancing that with the cost and the efficiency and the performance of those vehicles. So a lot of our protection technologies, our fuses, we have a product called BrakeTor that is on display here at the show. And we're really proud of the way that we can combine those two pieces of providing the safety goals with the efficiency and performance and cost effectiveness on board the vehicle.
That's awesome. Hey, Amy, turning back to you, right? I mean, ChargePoint, you've been in the industry for a long period of time. You guys, as the industry has evolved, I'm sure you guys have learned, quite a few new things. Like, what are some of the things that you guys are doing? Naturally, we're excited to collaborate with you guys from an Eaton perspective, but like, what are some of the ideas that you guys have that can help accelerate some of this transition for fleets and make it really easy and scalable for them?
Absolutely. So what we see is fleets don't want more technology. They want simplification. They want decisions that are clear, coordinated. Working with sequentially, 5 or 6 different partners is very confusing and very overwhelming for fleets. So our goal is working together and making it easier. We've been doing this a long time. ChargePoint's been doing this since 2007. We've got experience. We're working with our Eaton partnership and really doing tried and tested solutions, single sites and also multi-sites from many fleets across the country, from commercial B2B fleets to transit and federal fleets commercially, and really helping the total cost of ownership and trying to make things easier for the people that have multiple different hats that they're wearing. So having just a single source and one hand to shake is really helpful for our clients. We're looking to support electrification really end to end together. And we want to make sure that it works. And that's what fleets will look for, is what uptime is, and make sure that they have service and reliability and, local support that is able to help them. So that's really what they're getting from Eaton and ChargePoint working together as a team. The other thing that really excites me is that Cox Automotive just put out 28% increase in EV sales from used vehicle sales. So that's really showing we're not in the beginning stages. We're in phase 2, phase 3. Now we're seeing that come full circle, and the EV is getting sold, and that customers are buying those and drivers are liking their experience. And also that with the fuel prices rising and maintenance costs rising with supply chain, that we see more people getting driven towards EV. So our partnership is going to be even more important for the end user and the fleet to be able to take advantage on some of those savings and working together.
That's awesome. Hey, Rob, turning over to you. I mean, you guys work with a lot of fleets. Like, what's your perspective, like, as fleets transition, like, what are some of the results that they're getting? Is that meeting their expectations? How are they kind of pursuing their transition so far with the fleets you're working with?
I think in general, fleets are very pleased with electric vehicles. The drivers absolutely love them. because they are quiet, so they can pay more attention to what's going on the road. One driver said he can actually meditate in his truck. They don't shake and rattle. Their bodies are much less abused by the truck. And some things were surprising, like for instance, the Frito-Lay trucks in Queens that we worked with, they no longer have to get fuel for their vehicles because now they charge on site. They were having to get fuel at gas stations, which in New York City can take you off the route and take a lot of time. And that's time that's now productive. They don't have to spend any time with that. The vehicles tend to be very reliable. They don't break down as much. They don't need the same amount of brake service. One challenge that is starting to be overcome is it sometimes, because there's so few of the vehicles, getting parts can sometimes slow down. The repair may not take very long, but getting the parts may take longer. If you're driving a diesel truck anywhere in the country, a diesel mechanic can be at your truck in 15 minutes wherever you are and fix it. Whereas with electric trucks, that infrastructure is evolving, but it's still not completely there. I don't think any research has been done on this, but drivers say they probably safer because they can see much more of what's going on, not only because they're electric trucks, but because these trucks now have all kinds of cameras and so forth that they used to not have. So the fact that they're new is also very helpful. Fleets are starting to really learn how to match the use of the truck with the duty cycle, right? Nobody wants to be using the wrong truck in the right. There are some trucks, there are some duty cycles that electric truck is absolutely not suited for. There are no over-the-road sleeper electric trucks. But in the last run, unless we had trucks doing 400, 500 miles a day on a return to base run, almost all the fleets we work with charge at their depot. But there's one fleet in Navoya, I think. Yeah, I think Navoya is a fleet that's all electric. It does all of their charging at Green Lane or some of the major,
like an on-the-go charging.
Yeah, on-the-go charging, and that's they don't have a depot at all, and that's sort of happening, and that's a really interesting transition to see. As they also are matching their trucks with their duty cycles, they're also matching their trucks and duty cycles with their charging needs. I think we started out in our first run on less electric, which was in 2021. A lot of the vehicles would always find themselves, they would always recharge at 50% or 60% state of charge. They wouldn't go below that because they just didn't know the vehicles, and they would buy bigger charges than they needed, which ended up with higher demand charges and higher electric costs. But now that they're learning their vehicles, they buy vehicles that have, they're willing to go down. We had some vehicles going down to 5% or less state of charge. Once they know they can reliably get charging and know that their vehicles work, that allows them to spend less money on their vehicles because they can get smaller batteries. It allows them to spend less money on their charging infrastructure because they might get by with even a level 2 charger, particularly if they're a small urban, like the Frito-Lay's uses level 2 chargers, rather than over purchase that. And then that also reduces with the charging management systems that are available now. It allows them also to charge at the time of day when the cost of the electricity is lower and smooth their charging so they avoid the high demand charges, which often surprise people. And one of the things that's unique about electricity versus the other fuels that are used by trucks, diesel, natural gas, gasoline, hydrogen, is propane, is that it costs differently depending on what time of day you use it and how fast you pump it in, right? So that's a real adoption for fleets, and they're finally learning that, and we're seeing that that's a real change in the industry.
That's a great point. I mean, one of the consistent things seems that we are seeing is a lot of these fleets, they're past that pilot phase where they made a lot of those decisions. They've learned from them. They've really optimized going forward from a cost standpoint, and there's a lot of focus on like reliability, right? So I think they're kind of getting their head around like the cost and focusing on reliability and like scalability. Now,
Yeah.
would you agree with that?
Add a little bit to that. There's a maturity on both the OEM side and the fleet side on how they use the trucks. The OEMs are understanding more what the fleets need, and the fleets are understanding more what they need. I mean, trucking is an extremely complicated business. Electricity is an extremely complicated business, and these industries are learning from each other what the other needs, and are starting to, as you say, there's starting to be a real ecosystem building and maturing. Even 3 or 4 years ago, which is not very long ago, a lot of things were just sort of cobbled together from bits and pieces that already existed, and now there's a lot of real uh, materials that are designed explicitly for the purpose that they're used for, because there's now a demand for them. So you've seen a lot of maturity in the industries.
Yep, yep. Eric, anything you'll add to this? I mean, I'm sure you've got some good anecdotes on, as drivers have tried some of these new EVs, like anything you'll add on like how fleets are kind of perceiving the transition?
Yeah, I think you have to go into it with an open mind. You can't accept like for like. So if you have like a utility truck that is it's called an F-250 utility box truck, you can't get those right now, or at least you can't scale it up. So you have to look at other options, like basically like a Harbinger van. Maybe we can turn that into a service truck, and you got to change people's perceptions. We always worked out of utility trucks, even when I was a mechanic years ago, and we'll buy these, we'll build them, and create a pilot where people can use them. And what's happening is we're putting people in different vehicles in a pilot phase, because if you force it upon them, they're not going to accept it. But if you just buy it and say, hey, try this out, let's work together, you got to meet with the drivers, you got to meet with the operators. You get their buy-in, and we're switching a lot of what we've done forever. There's the way we've always done it, and switching to, like, we did a Bolt for my boat mechanic that wanted a truck, but he didn't need so many tools. So we got him out of an ICE vehicle into a Bolt. You got to find the different options, and get their buy-in and give them the ability to give you feedback, because if they're buying in, then the counterparts are buying in. I told somebody earlier, we gave somebody a truck and for a pilot, and it was supposed to go bounce around the city, and he got the pilot, and he still to this day has it. He will not give it up. He loves it. And now the other operators want to drive it, so we got 12 more of those coming. And then from the infrastructure standpoint, there's always this one-for-one charging myth, or I don't know if you want to call it. That was the thought process when we started building this process out. And when you run the telematics, which you got to have telematics when you're scaling these up, it'll tell you minimal miles. Maybe these only need to charge once a month. And where we would put them in parking garages, we're kind of transitioning away from that, because I want to build like gas station style charging hubs, 10 level 3 chargers, put a coffee shop up there, put a dog park, make it like how we fuel vehicles is how we charge vehicles, as opposed to being at a Vaughn's at 10 o'clock at night trying to charge your vehicles up. I have a lot of friends that are doing that for their wives' cars. They're at a parking lot at the beach because they need to charge their car with the wife's cars. In Long Beach, we're impacted, so not everybody has a house, so you have apartments, condos, whatnot. But putting those hubs where you can just pull in, charge, and as this charging gets faster and faster, and one day matches how long it takes to fill a gas to charge a vehicle, to me, that's the game changer. So that's kind of what we're looking at. We're changing our perspective on how we're going to build our EV infrastructure out. And, like I talked earlier, there's going to be a lot of temporary solutions that bridges to that. But we're also looking at public-private partnerships to maybe offer city land to build it out and create a revenue stream as well. So we can use the chargers, we don't put the money out, but now the city has a way to raise revenue for public charging. So I think you have to put all the options on the table. You can't just have one size fits all. And I think that's how it's gonna help us bridge our electrification from, we're at 10% of the fleet, potentially 50% by 2030.
That's awesome. Hey, Phil, like, as you guys go talk to your customers, like, what are you seeing? Like, have you been able to kind of, work around some of their needs and kind of adjust some of your roadmaps? Like, how are you guys innovating to kind of make the transition more flexible for fleets?
Yeah, I mean, our focus really since day one, a big part of my focus and my team's focus is really trying to reduce the perception of a cost penalty associated with electrification. Commercial vehicles are work tools, right? I don't want to pay more to do the same job that I can do with a gas vehicle or a diesel vehicle. So it's not the most exciting thing in a lot of ways, rather than we talk to a lot of customers, and fancy features are nice. Telematics is important. Export power is interesting. Vehicles that are new, vehicles that are comfortable, vehicles that are quiet, vehicles that are exciting to drive. All of those things matter in a lot of ways to the operator, and you definitely need that buy-in. But the fleet owners, especially the big national fleets, they calculate cost per mile to 3 decimal points. That's really what it comes down to. So we at Harbinger have always believed we can compete. We can compete on not only total cost of ownership, but we can compete on acquisition cost as well. That is what we spend most of our day working on, because we think that is what, that's what made the difference in passenger car electrification. That's what's kind of made the difference in almost all technology adoption. Really, once it was affordable and people saw value, then we didn't need subsidies. The market kind of took care of itself. So that's the way we see it. That's where we're going to continue to focus. And we think that's what brings electrification at scale across the industry.
That's a great point. I mean, one of the feedbacks and one of the things we see is like fleets make decision on a spreadsheet, right? And the best way to kind of bring that cost down is through collaboration. So Mark, how is Eaton collaborating with like different stakeholders and the vehicle OEMs and others to try and kind of drive towards that end goal?
Yeah, like you said, collaboration is really important. I mean, this is a new frontier. We're all trying to work through this together, and so how we engage with our customers and the users is really important. One thing that we spend a lot of time with NACFE's data, spending like, here's the actual use cases of the truck. So what does that mean in terms of specifications for the vehicle? What charging speed does it really need? And then we sit down with our OEM customers, the truck manufacturers, and we spec out their high voltage architecture. So we're trying to minimize the amount of orange cable running around the vehicle because all of that copper costs money. And so we're trying to make sure that we can achieve the performance at the price point that they need. It's tremendously important, as we've said, that these vehicles have to make a total cost of ownership value proposition in order to be adopted. And I think we're getting there close, and as we see adoption, we'll start this virtuous cycle where adoption will bring scale will bring more partners, more players, more competition, prices will come down, which will lead to more adoption. And so the cycle, I think is really at the tipping point where I think it's going to take off and become self-fulfilling from here forward.
That's cool. So Amy, on the topic of collaboration, right? Can you talk about, the collaboration between like ChargePoint and Eaton? How is this partnership kind of unlocking value for the common customers?
So much value, and happy anniversary. It's been about a year now, so we've done a lot of deployments together, but really ChargePoint and Eaton have come together to streamline the process and just simply make it easier when we can coordinate with power distribution, switchgear, conduit, all the electrical supplies, battery energy storage with Eaton, and then have the ChargePoint chargers and best-in-class infrastructure and end-to-end solution. That's just going to make it so easy for fleets, really being able to coordinate with the customer like Long Beach and with Harbinger, and being able to coordinate with the OEM and make sure everything is showing up on time is just going to make it so much more simplified. Instead of having multiple work streams with multiple different partners and even bringing in telematics and having interoperability and everything being able to work together is really important. So it also reduces risk. Our integration and partnership reduces risk. It helps make sure that we are getting the most economic value. It also reduces rework. And a lot of these initial projects, because they were, sourced from multiple different players and multiple different partners, whether they were certified or not, we had to go in and do rework. And there's also been a lot of consolidation in the industry, and our strength in working together and collaborating to make sure that we're going to be here the next 5, 10, 15 so years, it is really where customers and fleets will have confidence in working with us. And also another key thing is, vehicles luckily are showing up. Like we said, the problem is that the vehicles are coming, and it's getting the coordination. So what we've been able to do is really shorten timelines, working on large transit deployments. We have a project now with 61 Express Plus where it's Eaton ChargePoint. We're having meetings together with the client and just simply making it easier. So I'm excited about it, and definitely our co-development and our next gen equipment.
That's awesome. Yeah, one of the things, one of the feedbacks you've gotten is as a lot of these fleets have kind of gone through like the various stages of pilots, it's been a hodgepodge of like different solutions. So being able to kind of, work with someone who can kind of scale it across the sites and have that consistent experience, that's a lot of value. Hey Rob, from a NACFE perspective, like what else you think the industry could be doing to really help fleets out from a commercial EV adoption? Any ideas?
Well, I'll tell you sort of what we are doing currently, which I think is part of the really important stuff. In addition to the reports I mentioned, we have 12 reports on electrification. We also attend, I think last year was 110 events like this. We speak all the time. We're running webinars. We're participating in webinars. We have every other week, we have what we call a technical advisory committee where we bring together fleet managers that we work with, and we sort of facilitated information exchange between them. They'll be able to say things that they might not be able to write down, or might not, what's happened with certain vendors, what they're worried about, what they're thinking about. And then so, one fleet will say, we're having this problem, and someone else will say, oh, here's how we're addressing that. We're working with an organization in Australia called Movement, doing a run on less down under, where we're going to be helping them, but also they have a lot of trucks in Australia that we don't have here. They had a lot of Chinese trucks in Australia. So we'll be bringing that information back to the US about how those perform. I think that talking to each other and, sort of stirring the pot all the time is one of the things that NACFE does quite well. And keeping the industry talking to each other. And as Amy was mentioning, there's a real change in sort of the maturity of the industry, and we making sure that people are aware of who's using what technologies. One of the things we really do a lot is we do an annual report that we call the Fleet Fuel Study, which essentially looks at what technologies different fleets are using to make their fleets more efficient. Many of which have nothing to do with the fuel, but they have to do with aerodynamics. Who's doing what aerodynamics? Who's using what speeds are they actually limiting their trucks to? Because speed makes a lot of difference, regardless of your fuel, as to how much you use. Your tire inflation systems, alignment systems, sort of all the things that make a vehicle efficient, regardless of whether it runs on diesel or electricity or hydrogen or natural gas. So paying a lot of attention to efficiency in general in operations. If you're running a refrigerated fleet, making sure your doors are closed when so all the things that make things more efficient is one of the things we're working on.
That's awesome. Cool. Hey, Eric, a lot of times we all tend to kind of sort of be in like an echo chamber on, what do we think the customers need? But as a customer, right, do you think you're getting what you need as you kind of talk to your stakeholders, operators on increasing electrification and meeting your goals? Like, what's missing? What can the industry do better?
Not just myself, but everybody that runs the fleet, all fleet managers. When we talk about collaboration and teamwork, who we getting into the game with? When we talk about collaboration, we also talk about trust. We're leery of who's going to be around, and we're also leery on if we do purchase whatever it may be, EV infrastructure. Once the check clears, are they going to be gone? So who's going to be with us throughout the support of the life cycle of whether it be vehicles, chargers, the contracts? What I learned when I got into government is it's a very tight-knit group, and we all share in our experiences, good and bad. So if you're doing something bad with a different city, we're going to hear about it, and it makes us leery to do business with that company. So we just want to know that there's going to be product support, which whatever direction we choose. We want to know that you're in it with us during the journey, and you're in this with us when their problems arise, and problems will arise. Are you going to be able to solve our problems? Are you going to be able to alleviate our issues, or or are you gonna just like, I don't want to just say cash the check and move on, but that has happened to a lot of people, and a lot of platforms that have come out. I'm not gonna say names, but we've bought in things, and companies have gone out of business, and we vet them very thoroughly, because we want to make sure they're going to be there 3 to 5 years. Okay, we think that we can scale up; they're going to be there, but and I understand, like, there was this huge in introduction into the EV platform, and something I watched a documentary where 100 years ago the automotive industry was in the same boat, where basically Dodge, GM, and Ford emerged in the 20s and 30s. We're kind of in that same stage 100 years later, where all these manufacturers are coming out, and the strong will survive pretty much. So we want to be in bed with the people that are strong to survive, so we can have that partnership going throughout, and be a good partner with the vendors that we choose.
That's awesome. Hey, Phil, that's a good lead in, right? You've talked about dispelling some of the myths that kind of exist out there that's kind of stopping people from like electrifying their fleet. So, anything that you'll add to that? Like, how are you addressing it? Any words?
The biggest ask that I have, and not as not in my role as Harbinger, but just as somebody who's worked in this industry for a long time, is just stop making stuff up. Like, people just make stuff up. Like, everyone's like, oh, personally, I've been driving EVs for a long time, and I obviously, anyone who does that, we kind of hear it all, and I think there's nothing more appealing to these armchair engineering than electric vehicles, right? Everybody's an expert on batteries, and everybody tells you how batteries are gonna not work, and how batteries are made from toxic minerals, and lithium ion batteries don't actually contain rare earth minerals, right? That's like, so people just have to stop making stuff up, because then you have to have conversations, and it's really hard to have a conversation that's like, well, that's wrong. Like, well, why is it wrong? I read it on the internet, and I was like, well, somebody just made it up. Like, I don't know how to tell you in a way that doesn't make you feel uncomfortable that somebody told you that what you read on the internet is wrong. But the only thing that matters is succeeding, right? So we have to dispel those. We have to dispel those myths one at a time. We have to do it by actually solving problems. We have to do it by building good organizations that are in it for the long haul. As Eric mentioned, there's been a lot of churn, and there's been a lot of excitement, and excitement attracts people for good reasons, and it attracts people who want to make a quick buck. And that, so we have to fight through all that, and help people get the right information, and people understand that, like, your battery is probably going to outlast your vehicle. In most applications, the time spent for EV charging, even commercial EV charging, is generally pretty transparent. Most fleets can charge overnight. That's not time that those vehicles are productive anyway. But perception is reality for a lot of these folks. And we just need to, like I said, we have to fight back with good information, with good products, building good companies, and solving problems in a real and effective way. That's really the only path forward.
That's a great point to kind of end this discussion. But before we wrap up, right, I want to go around the panel and just ask one question. Like, when you kind of look at the industry, what excites you the most? And Mark, we'll start with you, and then kind of go around the panel.
Yeah. So I'll play off of what Phil was saying, that I'm a product and technology guy, and the technology is amazing. It's really here. It's really fantastic, and I think we can really lean into it in a way that maybe some people have been reluctant to so far. the capabilities of the products, and especially this kind of next generation of vehicles that we're working on with a lot of OEMs. The capabilities are there, the safety is there, the durability is there, and I think this is going to be where we start to see the business case also being there, and the total cost of ownership. It will be illogical to not electrify your fleet moving forward, and that's what really excites me, that we're going to move fast, and we're going to have these fantastic products that are really going to change the world.
Awesome. Amy?
Absolutely. It's what's exciting is that it's not if fleets are going to electrify anymore, it's how. And so really seeing how far we've come and how much options that there are, and getting through those pilot phases, seeing our new products together, our 600 ultra fast charger, KW charger, seeing technology evolve, and just get better and easier to use. Also, working with Long Beach and seeing multi-site deployments with hundreds of chargers and hundreds of EV vehicles, and it's possible and it's working. And he's proving that, winning awards for doing that. So that's making me very excited. And of course, our collaboration and moving past fragmentation and really towards streamlining the process for fleets to make it easy and make sure that they have a trusted partner and working together and saving them economically by electrification plans. So,
Rob, what's exciting you as you look ahead?
Well, actually, it's interesting. The couple things that people here have just said, I just added to my thoughts here. I mean, one is that the technology is inherently better. I mean, there's an order of magnitude fewer parts, right? I think literally an order of magnitude fewer parts. There's no hot gases under pressure running through rubber tubes. There's no, it's just inherently a simpler technology. And, and then following on what Phil said, some of the quick buck people have been exposed. The industry has been around, it's maturing enough that not all of them, and maybe they've moved to other fuels, but I won't go there. But the quick buck people have been, people know who they are, and they know who's, as Eric said, they know who screwed them over, and that gets around. So the quality of the manufacturers, the quality of the charging providers, the quality of the equipment providers has been forced to be better, and the good ones have risen to the top, and a lot of the other ones have disappeared. So that really makes me positive about it. A lot of fleets are really understanding right-sizing their vehicles and their chargers for their duty cycles, which allows them to bring the prices down. And the real challenge, is I think we've all mentioned, is the initial capital cost of the vehicles. And I think there's a real potential for those prices to start dropping. In part, it's a little bit of a chicken egg. You need a little bit of a scale of production to get that happening. But also the fact that now, several manufacturers are building from the ground up. There's more of those vehicles that have been designed explicitly from the bottom up as electric vehicles, which makes them likely to be less expensive. And NACFE released a report on April 30th on the TCO calculations that we learned from our run on less messy middle, and what it looks at the total cost of ownership for natural gas, hydrogen, diesel, and electric Class 8 tractors for the present 2028 and 2035. That analysis indicates that by 2035, the TCO for electric vehicle Class 8 will be less than for diesel Class 8. And that report's available to download on our website.
That's awesome. Eric, your perspective, what makes you excited as you look ahead?
So I'll take a different way. So, because everybody's covered a lot of good points. I look at the industry developing green jobs. Not only we're creating a new technician, we're working with the local city colleges to go different pathways. So I think you're bringing in a whole different set of skills that maybe wouldn't go into this industry. We're bringing that group into the industry, and we obviously have to train the future technicians that are going to work on these vehicles, and it's people that are programmers or coders that are actually coming into our field. So it's been exciting to see that different perspective come into our fleet world, and we're bringing that younger generation in now. And even for the simple fact of the telematics or reading the data, I've been in fleet maintenance for 30 years, and we really weren't into that 30 years ago. We were very minimal. And now we're, you have data scientists working in fleet where we never had that, especially in the government world before. So I just think there's a pathway for the next generation to have jobs, go into the trades. A lot of kids aren't going into the college, they're going into the trades. And I push that very much, whether it be automotive, electrical, electricians, and I know a lot of like unions like IBEW have partnered with us because they see a pathway for their apprenticeships to get into the fleet world, where it was just putting not only just the installation of infrastructure, but also working on the vehicles as well. So that's when I'm excited to see a new generation, a new pathway for future kids to have a way to make a living.
That's a great point. I mean, hearing you both talk, I feel like we have more data with some of these platforms now than we probably ever had. And I think that's just going to help us make decisions that just improve efficiency in general in the long run. So that's awesome. Phil, any kind of final thoughts? What excites you about this industry as you look forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important just to remember the scale and the scope of the problem that we work on, right? We drive about 4 trillion miles every year in the U.S. And probably fully a third of those are for goods and services that I think over the next 5 to 10 years will start to shift more and more to a model where those things come to you instead of you go to get them. So we're talking about, hundreds of billions of miles of driving, and the whether it's the environmental impact, the economic impact, or just the convenience and efficiency impact. We have an opportunity to make a huge difference, and that's really, unfortunately, it's a Jimmy Hoffa quote. But if you bought it, a truck brought it, and it's the attribution may not be the greatest, but it's still very true.
That's awesome. I mean, hey, it's an exciting space as we kind of look at our industry, right? We're sort of, going away from like pilots to like more of scaling. And what genuinely excites me is, when I think of like someone like an Eaton, right? The things that we're learning with off vehicle infrastructure, we are sharing with our colleagues, or, working on components on vehicles, they're sharing with, people like Harbinger. We're collaborating with folks like ChargePoint, taking data from someone like Rob, and implementing a lot of those solutions to kind of help City of Long Beach and similar customers out there. So it's just an exciting space. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time out to kind of chat through some of these topics that are kind of top of the mind for a lot of the folks, especially at Expo. If you want to learn more about some of these solutions, again, go to our website, www.eaton.com/e-mobility or /EV charging. And again, the viewers of Current Thinking broadcast, look forward to kind of more current thinking down the line. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.